Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Sports Nonsense and Whiskey, Tuesday, August 2nd. Virtually hanging out with the fellas. SP's able to join us tonight. How's everybody doing?
Good, man. It's been a good day-ish. I've got my drink. I got my whiskey with me, so can't complain.
Cheers to that. SP, nice to have you back. How you doing, sir?
Thanks. Highs and lows, definitely, of the last few days. So try not to complain, man. The highs are pretty good.
He's awake.
Yeah.
No
Barely.
roaster issues, right? At least that's not the problem.
There's a lot of problems going on up in that roaster, but yeah.
That's another podcast.
Yeah, we're working through it. I'll just put it that way. We're getting
This
there.
roaster could have its own podcast.
Oh my god!
I will say, I was impressed by your shooting, Aaron. I was
Dude, yeah, seriously.
Billy the Kid over here.
Yeah, I'm getting there, man. And I don't get to practice half as much as I'd like, but my brothers and I, we've been trying to get out there as often as we can, and even took my mom, been taking my wife, getting her very comfortable shooting as well. She's definitely not the quickest, but give her 20 seconds, she'll hit you. So
for those that are curious, SPs are sit-in Doc Holiday over here now.
Right. Yeah. We've been having a lot of fun, man. My especially my older brother and I, we take shooting fairly serious, slightly competitive, put a lot of stuff into it. But yeah, it's been a blast, man. Like going out there and really just kind of testing it, and so yeah,
that is an expensive hobby.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, especially these days. And then I was like, oh, I know what I'll do is I'll take the cheap route, or a less expensive route, I should say. Definitely wasn't cheap, but I went and bought myself an H&K rifle, a 22, because I was like, okay, sweet, man, 22 is really cheap. At least that's the least expensive round you can go out there and shoot. Took it out there to the range, man, got through about 70 rounds in, and then the extractor failed on it. Brand new rifle. And I'm like, nice. I'm like, yeah, that's what happens. It's funny because that's one thing I preach when it comes to business. I said the cheapest route always costs you the most money. And I'm like,
sure.
Yeah, sure thing. And I'm like, yeah, well, here I go. Just adding another principal aspect to it. So
let's just go Lord of War for you, and then you won't have any issues.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. I'm all about that.
And then in the end, your country will just trade to get you released for a female WNBA player. So it's all good.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Let's not touch that can of worms.
Right.
Oh man.
No. You just got to be like LeBron. Just stay there. Why even want to come back to the U.S.? There ain't none here for you. God, that guy's an idiot. Anyways.
Good
glad
stuff.
We got that out of the way.
Good stuff. We're on fire tonight.
We are not the biggest LeBron fans, so you'll get no argument from me.
Right. Yeah.
On that.
Yeah. Jesus, man. That guy.
Make your money, LeBron. Make your money.
Right. And don't forget to tell us how impressed you are, too.
I had a good day, fellas. I don't know why they changed it up, but the Broncos last night decided they were going to put half price season tickets on sale today.
Wow.
I woke up this morning to my Twitter. I was able to get 2 sets, actually.
Nice.
Which Pinky Jr. Had asked if I would take him to some games this year. Because I don't think he made it to a game last year because he was working at Topgolf. And so I was able to get tickets to the Houston Texans game, which is the first Russell Wilson's first game in Mile High.
Okay.
And then I was able to get tickets for the Colts game, which is a Thursday night primetime game.
That'll be a good one. I
paid for the Colts game. I paid $95.
Wow.
I'm up high.
How many tickets?
3.
Nice. That's a deal.
I paid $125 for the Texans. I'm not as
first
high
home
up,
game.
but
That's why it's gonna. Yeah, it makes sense. But
yeah, I was stoked. I was super happy. I've got tickets to 1 game a month, and I feel pretty good about that.
Nice,
pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's not bad.
And I've got some other folks who have me on their list if they don't decide to go, that they would offer their tickets to me. So feel pretty blessed, pretty excited about that. Every year I feel like it's like, why am I so excited about preseason? But damn it, I am ready.
I never feel that way. I am always excited.
Yeah, it's because you know what's next. You know what I mean? It's like, I just got to get through this, man, and the good stuff is there. So,
week 2 or 3 of preseason, I'm like, God, can we just get to the regular season? But I that first one, I'm usually like, yes, let's go. Before we
Thursday starts
jump
Thursday,
jump into
Jags.
that.
So yeah, that'll be good. That'll be good.
See.
Well, I'm glad you had a good day. I've had a hell of a past couple of days. The little man started daycare, so he's no longer with Zach's family for the weeks. And
geez, how old?
Poor little dude doesn't know what's going on.
How old is he now?
Oh man,
he is 17 months.
Wow,
that's quite the change.
Yeah, it's I can just feel how rough it is for him, and like dropping him off in the morning, he's not a fan, and he comes home and he's still a little off, and so it's going to be an adjustment for all of us, and I'm not hard to be, excited for him because I know that he's going to meet some friends and get to play with a bunch of little kids his own age and stuff, but Chelsea was like a second mom, and that's his second family, and now he's been thrown to the wolves. You can just feel it. That's what he's thinking.
Those the biggest thing is the change in environment, change in schedules, right? Kids adapt. He'll get used to it.
Yeah, a couple weeks he should be back to his old self. But like today, I guess he was just carrying around his lunchbox everywhere he went, and the teachers in the classroom said it was basically like he was just ready to go. And I hear stuff like that, and my heart just breaks. So
my son did that, but that's because he was a klepto. So
mine's like packing his shit at every opportunity and just like bye, and they're like, no, you have to stay with us, and I'm like, oh man.
He's like, nah, man, I'm ready to go. Like,
yeah, sorry, Daddy doesn't make more money, and you can stay at home.
Yeah, no, that was definitely me when I was. Not only was I a klepto, but I was a bad liar, and I blame my mom because I'm like, listen, if anything, I was showing a lot of creativity, and I could have used some encouragement. But that's how I look at lying. You know what I mean? Keep that in mind. But anyways, I used to steal all the toys from school. I'll take them home. And she'd be like, "Where'd you get that from?" And be like, "I did a great job, and this is how they rewarded me." And so they actually locked me up in like preschool jail. I'm like, nice.
Yeah,
I'm like, this is what you should do.
Well, let's hope he just sticks to his own stuff. My parents used to tell me that one of my best qualities was how good of a liar I was, and it scared them. And they never said it in a bad way. It was always like, you're very good at communicating and speaking and being believable.
You're good at communicating.
But sometimes you say things and we kind of look at it like, is that really what happened? Or are we going to have a parent-teacher conference coming up kind of thing? So let's hope he kind of falls somewhere in that middle area.
Hey, it's all about what you do with that. You know what I mean? And
totally.
And play to their strengths. And as long as they get some encouragement, it should be good.
Yeah, I was very much looking forward to hanging with the fellas and having my forefinger tonight.
So let's see. We did hang out and watch SummerSlam on Saturday.
And we got another one coming up here in about a month, Pinky.
Oh yeah, at the castle.
Yep.
That was fun, man. Andy had a great time. My son had a great time.
Yeah, it's always a good time hanging out with you guys, and these matches were a lot better than WrestleMania.
We actually saw a tractor like drop a dude into the ring and then actually lift the ring up. That was pretty cool.
That was fun.
You don't see that every day.
Good times. And while we were doing that, we went through the schedule, and we got some tweaks that we'll still be keeping an eye on. We're not going to release it until after the last week of preseason because things can change. But we've got a pretty good idea of what we're thinking and how we feel about where each team's going.
There's some fan bases that will literally call us idiots, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah,
I will back up my predictions.
There's also a few fan bases that I'd call idiots as well. So it just kind of works
absolutely.
out. So
we got to get you. We got to find a time when we can all hang out outside of the podcast so that you can go over it with us. And Andy was our deciding vote. Junior wanted to be the deciding vote, and Dad told him no. So he was not happy about that and was very, you know how Junior gets. He's very good about telling you how dumb you are. So it'd be nice to have.
I don't know where he gets it.
The other part of the podcast being the deciding vote instead of some outsider.
Yeah.
But I think once you see it, you'll for the most part agree with a lot of it.
I'll take a look for sure. Yeah.
But we'll release that last week. After the last week, I should say, of preseason going into the regular season is when we'll release that, and give everybody a chance to praise or vilify us very quickly.
I'm going to say vilify for the most part. But again, I feel like when we went over it, we were just like, this team's just not going to be very good. So I can't. They're going to win probably more games than we picked them to. But I can't look at that schedule and be like, automatically that team's going to go on and beat that team. I'd be like, no, that other team should win 80% of the time, right?
Yeah.
It's that 20% that you can't predict.
There will definitely be some people calling us homers, regardless of where we fall on that record. And there's going to be a couple fan bases that are ready to destroy that record, though. Look, people have this record basically predicted before we even looked at the schedule. So the fact that we're kind of falling there, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I'll have to see what you guys got. And if you sent that out and I should have looked at it already, that's my bad. But
I don't know if we did, but I'll shoot it over to you when we're done here tonight. And
we haven't sent that out yet.
You can take a peek.
The only other nonsense I had to bring up, Aaron, and I'm sure you're ahead of me. I did finish season 3 of The Boys this weekend.
I am not ahead of you. I've got maybe a quarter through the first episode. I do not have the time. Yeah, I've not hardly watched anything lately.
That's unfortunate because this season is money.
I watched enough of the first episode to be like, okay, this is how this is going to go.
Yeah, it's going like that for sure.
There is nothing better than Hero-gasm 2022. There's nothing.
So my younger brother, you know him, Pinky, he said, he goes, yeah, I just want to be here so I could watch you watch the beginning of, the new season. And I'm like, okay. He's like, it's bad. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, we'll see. I've seen a lot of terrible stuff. And he's like, no, I think you'll be surprised. And I'm like, don't think so. And then I watched it. I'm like, you're right. Yeah. I was surprised.
And it continues on that trajectory. So I think you're going to continue to be like, oh, shit. All right. I went there.
I had my mom ask me about it, and I was just like, I don't think you want to watch that show. It's a little raw.
A little bit, yeah.
It's a Game of Thrones on steroids, I would say. This season particularly.
Okay, here's the difference though, right? It's with Game of Thrones, there was definitely a much more I guess a serious tone to it, you know what I mean?
I thought you were gonna say wieners.
Oh, no, there were plenty of those too. But there's the tone is a lot different.
It's much more a drama than a dramedy.
Yeah.
But everything that happens in Game of Thrones are things that you technically could expect to happen back in medieval ages.
Sure.
Right? Yes. Yes. This is much more. It's the fact that we've grown up with comic book characters and superheroes being this pedestal, if you will, of good and righteous, and then The Boys comes along and not only destroys the pedestal but buries it 6 feet under. I think is the best part about the show.
Yeah, they do such a great. It's so good. Homelander this season, fantastic.
Oh yeah,
fantastic. His internal struggles and that whole I want everybody to love me, but then I also want to do whatever the fuck I want to do, right? That's a big. You just can't have that. That's a big battle.
Good stuff. It's very good stuff.
So
I will also
I gotta-
say I'm very excited. I think I mentioned this last week, but we've got the new Game of Thrones coming out the end of the month, and then a month after that, we've got the new Lord of the Rings coming out. So
I'm
those
nervous.
are both going to be hitting.
I'm nervous for both of those.
Yeah.
Everything I've read so far, feedback has been good. And the reason I'm excited about Game of Thrones mostly is because Tolkien, not Tolkien, George R.R. Martin his fingers were all over it. It wasn't like he gave him an idea and these two dumbasses decided to try to figure out themselves. He did it. So it should be very true to.
I mean, he created the
first
mythology of it all, so he would have been the one
Right.
to be able to do that.
Now, I'm a little bit more nervous about the Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power, because this is not Peter Jackson, which I know for myself and many others, he did arguably the best job ever at bringing pages to life and visually showing you kind of what you were already seeing in your head. So the fact that it's not him doing it is going to be interesting. But everything I've read is that they did everything they could to keep the same feel and the same look. They're just telling a new story.
Peter Jackson, what he did really well is he just used the source material. Like he didn't
changed
really...
quite a bit if you really read the books, but he didn't change it in such a way that it changes the overall broad arcing story. He kind of left out some stuff and then moved a couple pieces around to better fit the screen rather than the book itself, but the story itself is all very fluid and the same.
We'll see. She-Hulk's coming out the end of the month too.
I was going to say, that was the next thing I was going to mention is there's a couple.
I love the Hulk.
Hulk's my guy. Hulk's my guy. So excited about that. And then the Andor series for Star Wars is coming out as well, coming up here. And that's supposed to be within the Star Wars universe, but a different feel than what people are used to. So I'm excited to see what they do with that. For those that don't know, Andor is Cassian Andor in Rogue One, kind of the main pilot guy that kind of helped the rebellion form up and move forward. So telling his story will be fun to see where they go with that and just broaden that universe even more. There's a lot of good stuff coming up. And I mean, that's without mentioning the whole fact that football starts, in a little over a month as well. So
finally,
good stuff. John, nobody cares about the Predator. You can keep that.
Whoa. Easy. I enjoy the Predator. Okay.
Look, everybody knows I haven't seen it, so I'm talking out of my ass right now. I don't know what I'm saying.
You haven't seen the original Predator?
Nope, none of them. Bits and pieces here and there, but can't say I actually know the story.
That movie still hits.
I've heard
there's some cheesy moments in it, absolutely, but it still hits. And Shane Black, his dialogue is so sharp in that movie.
I will say, after seeing Prometheus, I will never watch an alien movie in my life. Those are completely worthless, in my opinion.
Aliens is the good one. Aliens.
I do. Predator is on my list. There's been a lot of stuff on my list, and it's not necessarily my genre per se. So it gets pushed back often.
Well, okay. From what I've seen already, when it comes to the new Predator movie, I just don't know why they always I don't like the woke aspects, right? Like, why does now it has to be a female character? You know what I mean? I'm like, why? It's just that's never been kind of like the case. It's never been the series. It's never been the concept, and it definitely doesn't follow the culture of which they're touching on. Things like when they force stuff like that, that's the only reason why I'm like, all right, not really feeling great about it, because they give you enough information to be like, kind of maybe where they're going to go with it. You know what I mean? But you probably don't know anything about it, Caleb. So you're just like, sure, good info. Appreciate that. Anyways,
I know they're going Native American with this new one, so that'll be good.
But the focus main character is a girl in the tribe, becoming some warrior.
Pocahontas?
Yeah,
they're going Disney version.
Yeah, something like that.
John Smith, Pocahontas, and Predator.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get it, man. But whatever, we'll see. I'll probably check
White
it out.
blonde-haired conquistadors. Big fan.
I mean,
I'll check it out. So
is it rated R? If it's rated R, we're good.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay.
I
Because
just,
when
Yeah, of course it is.
they try to make
Dude,
it PG-13.
even Disney
that's
now has
going
said
too far.
they're going R-rated with stuff. That's why they just released Deadpool on Disney Plus, and
I was
a couple
so
other
shocked
things.
when I pulled up Disney Plus and on my profile like Deadpool and Logan, and I was like, "Whoa, wait a minute! What
I'm
just
not
happened?"
honestly. I had a feeling this would be coming for
Yeah.
a long time because Disney wants to encompass all fan bases, and they want to keep their original biggest fan bases, which are all older adults, our age and older adults now. And if you're only going to do kid movies on there, that streaming service would never stay. So it doesn't surprise me that they finally started putting that stuff out there. There was a huge back roar from a specific group of demographics, family-oriented type people that just went off. And the overwhelming response to them was, "There's parental controls. Learn how to use them."
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have a kid's
so hard
profile, the kid's profile, none of that comes up.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's the dumbest. Like it's like, and no, I'm not trying to bash anybody's religion here or anything, but grew up with a lot of Mormons, and they always, anytime I'd hang out at their house and spend the night and stuff, we'd go to one specific video store, and it took me a couple, 3-4 visits before I realized these movies have been edited so drastically. Some of them are not even the original movie. So, those friends started coming over to my house to watch movies instead of doing it at their house because they wanted to know what really happened. So you can't, if you don't want to be a part of it, then just don't view it and set the parental controls up and actually be an adult and a parent instead of a friend.
Yeah. It's not difficult. I mean, in a way, I kind of wish there was some, I probably could have used some of that adult locking content when I was a kid. I might be a different person today. So
my wife could be said the same thing. She was watching ours from a very young age. And I'm like, you saw that? And she's like, yeah, what's the problem? I'm like, I saw my first movie, our movie, I think I was 13. And it was all on accident. You guys remember the movie The Substitute?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Incredible language and violence. Incredible. And my parents got it, and I don't know what they were thinking. Didn't look at the rating. My dad had heard about it or something, and so they plop it in, and me and my brother are sitting there, and like first 2 words are "fuck you," and my parents kind of looked at each other. We looked back at them like, "Oh, this is going down." And my mom looked at my dad, goes, "Well, I guess that toothpaste is out of the bottle. Keep your mouth shut and just watch the movie."
Well, I might have you slightly beat. Probably the first R movie that I remember watching was New Jack City. So,
oh my God.
Yeah, that was my introduction.
I didn't get to see that till I was like 19 and, finally going back and watching everything that, I was told I needed to see.
Yeah. My babysitter was basically a bunch of movies that my mom cleared out of a Blockbuster, rack or whatever, where they had all the movies that they weren't renting anymore. So they just tossed them in the bin. So our babysitter was a TV, VCR, Super Nintendo, and those movies. So that was, I
remember when I got my license, my dad hopped in the car with me. I was like, I was going to go buy some CDs. So he drove down to Media Play, give us our age a little bit, went down to Media Play, picked out some CDs, and at 16, you could buy whatever you wanted at that point.
Yeah.
So he's like, "What'd you get?" And I kind of told him. And he's like, "Those have MA on them." I'm like, "Yeah, it'll be all right." He's like, "Well, don't let your mom see them." So we get in the car, and he's just bobbing his head the whole time. My dad's very much about the beats and not the lyrics. Like, doesn't really listen to the lyrics, just listens to the beats. And I don't remember what happened, but like a month later, I drove the family to church or something, and we got in the car, and my dad turned on the radio, and DMX's
nice.
And then there was his first CD, and it was on Rough Riders Anthem. And my dad's like, yeah, this is a good one. And my mom's like, are you listening to this? And he's like, what are you talking about? And there was like all the way to church, 15-minute drive was my parents arguing about lyrics and my dad just talking about how good he's like, don't listen to the lyrics, just listen to the beat.
Hey, DMX had some pretty good Christian undertones. Like
fabulous Christian undertones.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
His prayers at the end of every album. I mean,
there you go. Yeah. You weren't listening to the right tracks. All right. So that's good stuff.
Good stuff.
What was the other Hastings? Isn't that what it was called? The big store with like the books, the movies, and music. Wasn't it Hastings? Did you guys have one up here?
That sounds like a Pueblo thing.
Oh, it could have been a Pueblo thing. Yeah, but no, that's what
I remember. Hastings.
That's what I remember growing up was a Hastings. So, but
nice.
Good stuff.
Nice. Yeah, quality.
Right.
Sam Goody. You guys remember Sam Goody?
Sam Goody.
Nope. I don't know that one.
Oh, that was
Sam Goody. I got that Wyclef Jean album at Sam Goody. I'll never forget when I got that album. That thing is still an all-time favorite.
Sam Goody was more expensive than Best Buy. So
very much so.
That's why they went out of business. Sam Goody.
I remember Circuit City. Circuit City was our jam.
Oh,
so.
Circuit City. Yeah, I remember that too. God, we are the days of going to stores. How they have ended.
Yeah.
So old. All right.
Stuff,
Let's transition to. I've got a baseball take today.
Yes, please tell me you're going to talk about what I was going to bring up. Let's hear it.
The Padres completely fleeced the Nationals for Juan Soto.
I would agree. Give the people
if
the information.
If Padres are completely healthy, they should definitely smash going forward.
Their pitching's a little weak. They don't have a starting rotation like some other teams, so that could be their downfall. But boy, do they
outscore them.
They got bats. What did the fleecing involve here, Pinky?
A bunch of players I could give a damn about. So I don't have all the details. They did get Soto and Josh Bell, and then they did trade a couple guys. They tried to trade Eric Hosmer. I know he said no.
Yeah, he denied the trade
because he had a no trade clause, I think.
So here's what they get. I had this up already because I was planning on talking about it.
None of these guys I know who they are.
So yeah, I mean a lot of them are prospects. So unless you're crazy deep, you're not going to know it. There is one name that jumps out that could be a big time pitcher. The Nationals received shortstop C.J. Abrams, left-handed pitcher Mackenzie Gore, and prospects Robert Hassel III, James Wood, and Jarlin Susana. The Padres will also send first baseman designated hitter Luke Voigt to Washington in the deal. The big takeaway here is that Eric Hosmer was initially part of the package. He turned it down. I can't find it now. I don't know where I have that saved. Hosmer did end up getting traded, though, so he will not be with the Padres going forward. And then, obviously, the Padres get Josh Bell and Soto, which is crazy. The big name for me is Mackenzie Gore. He's a lefty. He was a top number one prospect. Some had him as the best pitching prospect a couple years back coming up in the Padres organization. He could develop into a legit arm. And if that happens for the Nationals, then this trade becomes less of a fleece and a lot more even.
I mean, again, at the end of the day, they got rid of a guy who wasn't re-signing with them anyways. So.
But that's where I was going to go with this. This is now the fourth guy. Scherzer didn't want to re-sign with the Nationals after they paid him big money for a couple years. Bryce Harper, who they drafted, wanted no part of staying there, and they were arguably willing to offer him more than what he got from Philly. Trey Turner wanted no part of re-signing with them, so they traded him to L.A., and now Juan Soto wants no part of being there. To me, this says a lot more about the Nationals organization than it does anything else. If you have that, those are four top dudes in Major League Baseball, four top dudes that if they were on that team would be considered a World Series favorite. And the fact that none of them wanted to be there, there's something going on in Washington that we'll probably never know about, but basically players want no part of being there.
Take it easy, Dean.
Later, buddy. See you, Dean. Appreciate you stopping by. Yeah, that's the big takeaway for sure. And there's been some other deals, some pitchers movement and things of that nature, but that was arguably one of the biggest deals at the trade deadline in Major League Baseball history. So very crazy, very crazy. And now it's going to be, where do the Padres come up with the money to sign him long term? Otherwise, you've got him on a 1.5-year rental.
Yeah, it's crazy, but it's baseball, so who cares, right?
I was gonna say I'm gonna take your opinion on that, guys.
Aaron's like, pass.
I'm like,
Pass.
sure.
I will say another big name that got traded was Hader, the closer
big
for
name.
the Brewers, who are in first place in the Central, and they traded him down to Houston. Tell me I have that correct.
I believe you're correct on that.
I'd say you're probably close enough. So.
I'm going to double check myself real quick here, but that was the other really big move I think that came up here.
Hader's a big boy. I know that.
He was in the news a couple years back for some off-colored, possibly racist comments he made when he was younger on Twitter, and came back to bite him in the butt.
I like that. Off-color, possibly racist, depending who you ask.
They definitely were. I just don't remember all the context, so I'm kind of.
I mean, Josh Allen had some negative tweets as well when he was in his high school years, so we'll forgive.
Yeah, Hader was traded to the Astros from the Brewers, so that was kind of a surprise move considering the Brewers are in first place, Houston's in first place. Not expected there. So there's a couple other ones. We'll let that go because we know you guys don't want to get too deep in baseball, but it's going to be interesting down the stretch. There's definitely some things to pay attention to, and if you're a baseball fan, there's some exciting things. Judge is on record pace right now for home runs in a season.
I will say that dude's making things interesting because he is just going yard night.
He is 3 behind Barry Bonds' all-time pace right now in a single season. So there's a lot of people who say if he passes 61, they will consider him the actual single season leader because Sosa, McGuire, Bonds, all linked to steroids. Judge is not linked to any of those. So if he passes Maris's 61, there's a lot of people who say they'll recognize him over the rest of those guys. So it's going to be interesting to see how the season.
I'm still gonna go with Bonds because he did it and he still walked like a crazy amount that season.
Absurd amount. He walked more times than he struck out, by a lot. Yeah, that if you go back and look at Bonds' stats that season, they're absurd, absolutely absurd.
So we did start a little bit with knowing that, hey, there's a football game Thursday night. Well, there'll be a game played. Nobody's really going to be playing in the game.
Right.
But there'll be a game played between the Raiders and the Jaguars.
We're going to see who has a better practice squad.
I love preseason because it's a chance for dudes to live their dream. Whether they ever actually make it to the regular season and on an actual 53-man roster, it's a chance for them to go play at that highest level, even if it's it's the best competition, and their family's going to come support them and see them and be a part of that atmosphere for even if that little bit of time. And that's what I love watching about the preseason. That's why I pay attention to it.
I like it to see all the young guys, right? That's when most of the rookies get to play quite a bit.
You mean anybody in the third round or later rookies?
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah, because then first and second rounds ain't playing.
Right, yeah.
Now, I wanted to share, with it being Hall of Fame weekend, as a reminder, we've got Tony Baselli going in, former left tackle of the Jaguars. Cliff Branch, wide receiver, famous from the Raiders. One of the fastest dudes out there.
I was going to say all-time great deep threat.
Like super fast. Sam Mills, linebacker from the Saints and Panthers. We've got Leroy Butler, safety from the Packers. Richard Seymour from the Patriots and Raiders. and Bryant Young of the 49ers. And then Dick Vermeil is going in as a coach.
Nice.
I will be honest, most of these guys I would not have put in the Hall of Fame myself. But I don't have a vote, so it doesn't really matter what I think.
Yeah,
That's
you
right.
remind me of some of them curmudgeon sports writers, Pinky. You gotta.
Tony Baselli was arguably one of the best left tackles while he was healthy. I don't really mind him going in. But there's kind of a bunch of guys sitting out there that deserve it over some of these guys where you're like, well, they were, again, I think all of these guys are Hall of really good. They just don't scream Hall of Famers to me. Like none of them on the list. And Dick Vermeil, how does Dick Vermeil get in over Mike Shanahan? Mike Shanahan's got multiple Super Bowl rings.
Age, buddy. There's with coaches and front office, there's a pecking order, and you got to wait your turn to get in. It's Dick Vermeil's turn. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, Dick Vermeil. That's weak.
I mean,
Dick
he created the greatest show on turf. He ushered in the new era of NFL, if you want to talk about it that way.
He was a head coach like 10 seasons. Like that was it.
He's got a Super Bowl, right?
I don't know. I don't think he's that great. I really don't think he's that good a coach.
To sit down and actually decide what your Hall of Fame credentials are, because I don't even think you know.
I know Dick. Look, I know Dick Vermeil and Tony Dungy are nowhere near Mike Shanahan, and I'm a Broncos homer.
I'm not gonna argue with you there. You're absolutely right there. The Shanahan tree alone is probably the greatest coaching tree out there. Now you could go back a little further and call that a Walsh tree.
Bill Walsh, which then Shanahan now.
The entire new age is all the coaches everybody's trying to get their hands on is from the Shanahan tree. I mean,
correct.
Plain and simple. So I agree with you in that sense. But again, there's a limited time when these guys are able to come on. Only one of them is allowed in every year. So they really try to kind of, here's your order. Robert Kraft is probably going to get in next year. Shanahan might have to wait 2 more years.
Yeah, see, that's just garbage.
It's just the order, man. It's just the pecking order. So it's not there's not really a vote in that sense. It's here's the guys that we have to put in. Who's going in this year? Who's going in next? They kind of funnel it down. Shanahan's going to get in, and he'll get in before it's too late.
And I know
Marty can't join.
Marty Schottenheimer should have gotten in over Dick Vermeil.
No.
So.
No, he shouldn't have.
Absolutely.
Why? The dude never won anything.
That guy's record over time, and he did it with multiple different teams.
And he never won.
Better than Dick Vermeil catching
Couldn't win in the playoffs. Never won the big game. Why are you putting him in?
Dick Vermeil won the big game one time when he caught lightning in a bottle, which he wouldn't have gotten if Trent Green doesn't get hurt.
Shanahan, I'm not Shanahan. Let's put it like this for you. You're trying to put in a coach in Schottenheimer that is the equivalent of Phillip Rivers, and you don't think Phillip Rivers is a Hall of Famer. So why would Schottenheimer be a Hall of Famer?
But I really don't think Dick Vermeil's a Hall of Famer. I don't. At all. I don't think he has even his one Super Bowl doesn't.
The game, and he won a Super Bowl.
He did not.
Schottenheimer didn't do any of those things.
Mike Martz's offense changed the game. Dick Vermeil was the head coach. It was Mike Martz who was coaching the offense.
Pretty
and
sure
that was
head
the
coach
greatest show on
allows
turf.
that to happen and influences whether or not it will go down. And if you talk to any of those players, they say that was Dick Vermeil allowing that and creating it with Martz.
So yes, Dick Vermeil brought Mike Martz in, and Mike Martz had his offense, and he did all that, and Dick Vermeil took all the credit for it. Yeah, cool. That doesn't make Dick Vermeil a great coach.
Yeah, that's actually the definition of a good coach, Pinky. It is kind of like a leader. You put people around you to do the jobs that you want them to do, and you lead the team forward based on your idea of what it needs to be.
I'm sorry. I don't believe in him.
And what did
I don't
Schottenheimer
think-
do? Win a bunch of regular season games?
He was super consistent with multiple teams.
Oh,
one of the
Pinky, I
winningest
can
coaches
never
of
figure
all
you out, my
time.
man. You keep me on my toes, buddy. Cheers. Cheers to keeping me on my
I
toes.
have to. I have to.
You know what this reminds
Somebody's
me
got
of? Bill Burr when he talks about Steve Jobs. He's like, why does that guy get so much credit?
Yes.
He goes, did he
Yes.
solder anything? Did he make it? Or did he just say, you build this and put all
Put all
that
my
in there?
music in this phone.
Exactly.
Figure it out.
Yeah, right. How come Steve Jobs gets all the credit? I don't hear you saying anything about that, Pinky. Just saying. Anyways.
Well, he's not an Apple guy, so let's not even go down that road.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's
I'm not an
fair.
Apple guy. F Apple. Although I have some of their stock, so there's that.
Oh gosh.
Let's see.
Moving along.
All right.
Pinky, moving along.
Another great thing this week. Deshaun Watson finally got suspended. 6 games.
6 games. That's so funny.
We don't have time to go through everything to talk about this. This is what I'll say, and I'll try to make it as concise as possible. The fact that this arbitrator used previous NFL suspensions as what she called precedents and baseline to set this is a joke. The fact that she has a 15-page document calling him a sexual predator, however, his sexual predator prowess, if you will, does not classify as violent sexual predator, but it was egregious enough to be classified as a crime in a civil court of law.
Which is so funny because it's like that guy that gives you candy to get into his van. That's not violent, you know. I just
yeah, and then finally the fact that she how do I want to say this? She only heard 4 of the cases out of the 25 women and agreed with everything the NFL had said as far as them making their case. And then instead of indefinite suspension, only gave him the 6 games. There's 100 other different things. The Haslams in their written statement using the word triggered. Could you be any more dense? Deshaun saying, he's still innocent and he's never going to show remorse because he has no reason to. Like, there are so many things about this that just make me like the guy even less. And it's so hard for me to say that because I was such a huge fan of his.
So
we know, we know,
man,
Caleb.
That curse.
I will say this about Deshaun.
Hard, didn't it?
All I need Deshaun to say is to come out and say, my previous behavior was unacceptable. I am sorry to all women that I may have hurt. I'm sorry to the women out there that see this in a negative light. I'm sorry. I promise I will be better.
2
That's
things.
easy, right?
One, he can't say that because that'd be admitting guilt. 2, that would not be nearly enough based on what I've read in the reports of him forcing himself to ejaculate on women and them having to succumb to it, among a myriad of other things. The dude's a sleazebag at the least. Yeah, can't
he let his power, fame, and money allow him to do things that are unacceptable.
That's a very kind way of putting it, Pinky.
Yeah, I honestly, I really hate that, even that explanation, right? To think that, oh yeah, you technically were kind of entitled to it, but you took it too far, like that mentality. You know what I mean? That for some reason there's any kind of justification to it whatsoever.
Totally.
Matter of fact, I think you get less merit when it comes to it. Like you have so much available to you, you get less chances. You know what I mean?
Oh, how about the fact that she made part of the agreement and the deal that he only can use team appointed masseuses going forward? Like,
correct.
What?
Yeah, I don't like the idea where they almost borderline treat him like a victim. Like, oh, well, it's not his fault. He couldn't control it. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, here's the other thing too. Like, regardless, and here's the problem that I also have with the NFL. They sit there and they wash their hands and say, not up to us. You know what I mean? We'll let everybody else If any of these teams had any integrity, it'd be like, cool, we appreciate your decision. You're fired. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I will say the biggest thing I'm waiting for right now is whether or not the NFL uses their appeal process and Goodell suspends him for a year.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I've lost a lot of respect for the NFL. Now, I'm a sports junkie. Players are always over owners for me, so I can separate those pretty easily. I think the owners are trash, and there's plenty of other news and situations where it's been proven that they don't care about the shield. They care about their bottom line. And if a player is affecting their bottom line, they will destroy them. If an owner is affecting the bottom line, they'll bury it so nobody talks about it anymore.
Yeah.
So I've lost a lot of respect for the NFL as a whole. But they could get some of that back if they use that appeal process and take this a step further and just say, thanks for your time, Judge, but you're wrong. That was stupid. We're going to do what needs to be done.
Yeah. And I don't know. I just think all of that's gross. Like that guy, he shouldn't be playing in the NFL, period. And
Well,
if you haven't read the report, sorry, Pinky, real quick. If you haven't read the report, it is available for public consumption. I have perused it. I haven't read it word for word, but I have definitely gone through it. I've listened to a lot of people talk about it, page by page kind of thing. It's if you have any women in your life, mothers, sisters, daughters, aunts, whatever, and you're not disgusted after you read that report and you're still rooting for this man in any shape, way, or form, shame on you.
Yeah.
What's really weird, and again, the NFL has some time to make it right, but with the NFL being so, like, they're trying with all their marketing and all the like NFL Network, NFL Total Access, their top show. Who's the main person now? A woman, right? They're trying to continue to branch out to say, if we can get more women in football and interested in football, we'll get more ratings. We'll get more money. For them to, not do anything or not touch this, to me is a kind of a slap to all women, and also against their whole, again, the NFL is like, most men that are going to watch football are watching football.
Yeah.
The young men that are coming up that are raised by football fans are going to watch football. So what avenues do we have to create more viewers? Let's get women and let's go international. Right? Those are the two avenues. And I just feel like it's just a bad look if you just say, yeah, you know what? We're going to go with that 6 games. We're going to let that ride. He didn't get fined. He still got a crap ton of money for rounds. He didn't really get a punishment. Besides last year, he got paid $10 million to do nothing.
I mean, I've said it before, and I'll say it again, and I don't care what people think of this. I'm more than happy to talk about it more if you want to reach out to me. But when you look at the grand scheme of things, Kareem Hunt got 6 games for, by all intents and purposes, based on everything else that's happened, from Hardy to Ray Rice to everything else, he got 6 games for what was a toe tap to some woman's stomach. And what Deshaun Watson has been accused of and what has been stated as evidence is not even in the same galaxy as far as how terrible it is to what Kareem Hunt did. And they got the same amount of game suspension. That's I can't even comprehend that.
Yeah.
Well, he got the same as Zeke, and Zeke had mainly hearsay. Like, nothing in Zeke's case was actually proven. It was his word versus her word, and that was it.
Yeah, but let's be honest. Zeke was guilty. We all saw what he did that to security guard. So you can only imagine what he did to some chick behind closed doors.
I know, but on the same level, what he did,
agreed,
and Deshaun did, like, it's completely different levels.
And I am blown away that a former federal judge could come to this type of decision and use a precedent, by her own words, a precedent that the NFL had already set up when the NFL had hired her to create a whole new precedent. And then she uses old stuff to justify her decision. Like, it makes no sense.
It was trying to take her out of that, because if she was in a tough position altogether. It's one
No,
of the
she
first
wasn't.
times.
This is her job. This is what she's hired to do.
But
this is what she made a career out of. I don't want to hear she was in a tough position. She chose this life.
She was in a tough position. It was her first time overseeing a case from the NFL.
So
it's her first time dealing with all that. She goes too heavy, they fire her. She goes too light, they fire her.
Oh no, she gets fired because it was too heavy. Oh, there's a public out. Oh no, she's dealt with legit murder cases, and she's worried about fan perception. No,
So,
dude, no.
Again, we could talk hours on this, but we don't have that time.
Right.
The Miami Dolphins got hit today with tampering charges.
Yep.
So here's what's funny. So the tampering charges stuck. The the integrity of the game, trying to lose football games, did not. They didn't find any evidence in that.
Hurt Brian Flores because what did the NFL do? They buried the lead and slapped the owner on the wrist.
So they got charged a first-round pick next year, a third-round pick in 2024, $1.5 million fine, and the owner is suspended 6 games for tampering with Tom Brady and Sean Payton.
Nothing. That's nothing. That is a slap on the wrist. That is absolutely ridiculous that you can admit to your owner actually breaking all the integrity of the game's rules that you have set up. And you go, nah, but not a big deal.
What's crazy about it is they did it twice with Brady. They were talking to Brady while he was with the Patriots.
Yep.
And then they were talking with him again last year as he made his decision to retire. That's just amazing.
Yeah, Brian Flores will never get another head coaching job, and his court case just took a huge hit, in my opinion.
Oh, check it. So they said of the evidence they found, Stephen Ross had said that in jest, that it wasn't like an actual true statement.
Of course, because let's protect our owners and not have men of integrity. But the men that don't have any integrity are going to hold everybody else to a standard of integrity that you better follow.
This is such a great segue. As we talk about the NFC East, we can start with the worst team in the division, which also has an owner that should be booted in Daniel Snyder.
Talk about integrity for sure.
What they have done is just ridiculous.
I'm also surprised to hear you say this is what you believe the worst team in the East.
I do believe they're the worst team in the East. I do.
Well, okay.
There's a team a little farther north that might disagree with you.
Yeah.
I like Brian DeBall as a coach more than I like Ron Rivera. So
I don't disagree with you there, but talent-wise, roster construction-wise, Washington is definitely better than New York.
Yeah, they got talent. They just have idiots up top. But New York, they have more talent in their stands than they do in the actual team. So that's pretty bad.
Now again, they're both gonna suck. So flip a coin on who sucks more. I just think the Commanders, and it starts with their name. The Commanders is a horrible name.
Yeah, you deserve to lose because of that. So
I will agree. I will second that for sure.
They have horrible ownership. Yep. The Commanders started out this year. They traded for Carson Wentz. Yay!
I'm tired of people downplaying that. Dude had a good season last year. He did. He had a good season last year. He just became a scapegoat for one game that the team didn't want to take responsibility for.
Could have been more things involved than just his play. Could have been coaching. Could have been what the play
leadership from Carson. Fine, whatever you want to call it. But his play on the field. That top 15
Colts
quarterback.
Team, you put the top 10 quarterbacks in the league on that team, they all make the playoffs easily.
Of course, yeah.
But they
And
should have made the
they lost to
playoffs
the
last year.
Jags.
That wasn't on Wentz. That had nothing to do with Wentz, why they didn't make the playoffs.
I mean, his play the last 3 or 4 weeks was pretty bad. Like, it wasn't good.
But Jonathan Taylor also completely took over. I mean, it's not like they didn't have a means to win. But what we do know from our own analytics, rush yards do not equal wins. And with that information in mind, he should have been there to support the pass. So that could have been bad game planning as well. Who knows?
Absolutely.
So
they only really added, they added Carson Wentz by a trade. They did add a guard, Andrew Norwell. That was pretty much their free agency. They didn't really do a lot in free agency. In the draft, they drafted Johan Dotson, a wide receiver out of Penn State. They drafted back-to-back Bama players in Phildarian Mathis and Brian Robinson. Then they did draft Sam Howell at quarterback in the 5th round, who at one point in time did have a first-round grade. Possibly
coming
number
out of
one
Carolina. If he would have left Carolina last year instead of this year, he would have been a first-round pick.
Yeah, I mean, he had a first-round
grade.
grade.
Was that high. He had that good of a year.
Some people were talking about him as the number one.
He had a down year last year at North Carolina. The team as a whole didn't have a great year, and his draft stock plummeted. I see some potential there with Sam Howell, but he's not going to play over Carson. But, I mean, let's be honest. Let's go through. I mean, Washington might have the best defensive line in football. I mean, let's be honest. They might have the best defensive line in football.
I would say you're not wrong there, Caleb. You're absolutely right. Cheers. Top to bottom, that D line is nasty.
Nasty. You look at the offense; they got weapons, man. Antonio Gibson, legit. Bringing in Robinson as possible short yardage goal line guy, legit as a rookie.
Yeah, McLaurin.
Yeah, I got McLaurin. You got Dotson coming in. You got Logan Thomas when healthy is a arguably top 10 tight end. He's shown some potential for that.
When healthy.
Now he's got some injury history, so that could play mostly concussion issues with Logan Thomas. But you look at that roster up and down, you go, damn, they could surprise some people, in all honesty. Yeah. What I've always said, and it always goes back to the head coach with me, is Ron Rivera is a top of the list leader of men. He is a bottom of the list head coach. And I don't know if he can get out of his own way to allow that team to succeed. He will help change the culture there as much as is allowed by that trash of an owner. But I don't see him being a coach that takes you over the edge. So I am very interested to see what Washington does this year.
Yeah, that's why I have them last in my rankings. And Vegas has their over-under at 8 wins.
You know, Pinky, after going through, little side note, after going through the schedule and us picking every team's record, I don't think Vegas actually adds up win totals to make sure everybody levels out. I think they just throw shit at a dartboard and go, oh, this team could be this. Oh, this team could be this. We're not actually trying to level it up. We're just saying what possibilities are.
They're putting it right there of like trying to get that money. Because there's a couple of people that will bet, oh, they're going to be under that. And there'll be people that are going to bet, oh, they'll win more than 8 games. I'm like, will they? I don't think they will.
We'll get SP's final on our schedule release here. But
I don't remember where we had them.
Money. Oh, I've got it. I'm not going to say it, but I've got it. We're going to hold off on any of that right now. I'm actually looking at it as we speak here.
The Giants, in my rankings, are the 3rd place team. And additions-wise, Tyrod Taylor, quarterback, Ricky Seals-Jones at tight end. Their biggest addition was firing Joe Judge and getting Brian DeBall from the Buffalo Bills.
Addition by subtraction, baby.
who didn't have to go very far. He just had to drive down to New York City or to New Jersey.
I mean, what is that though? Still from like North New York to Southeast New York? That's got to be like a 6-7 hour drive, probably still.
No, not at all.
Really?
Not
now
at
I'm
all.
curious. You keep talking. I'll figure it out.
Not at all, bro. You can drive down the whole East Coast in like 10 hours. So,
God, we're so screwed up in the West here with how far everything is from each other.
yeah, those locations are so close. Now, again, traffic might be crappy once you get it. If you have to go through New York City to get to New Jersey, that's where you could see that time change. But I don't think there's a big mileage between Buffalo and New Jersey, which still baffles me that both New York teams play in New Jersey. That's kind of funny. Because they're not really New York teams.
Pinky, I'm just going to say go ahead and cheers to me, sir, because 6 hour and 20 minutes.
That seems to me more about the traffic than it is the actual mileage.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
You're not hitting traffic until you get to New York City, dude. Like, you act like
But
all
New
of
York
New
City
York
is
is some kind of traffic. It's not California, bro.
That's some shitty traffic you got to go through, man. That's all I'm saying.
None. There's
That's all
no
I'm saying.
shitty traffic until you get to New York City, bro. None. New York is very much not populated outside of New York City.
Who cares?
Do you
Both
not
those
know
states are
this?
trash. So,
All right. Cheers
Northern
to you,
New York
Caleb,
is
for
beautiful.
being right. Northern New York is beautiful. That is true. All right. The Giants had a pretty good draft, actually. Their top three guys I was pretty impressed with. Kayvon Thibodeau at number 5, who could turn into be quite the pass rusher, which
That's a big get.
one
Who
of the
arguably was
big
going to be the
things-
number 1 overall pick. So for him to fall down to you, that's a good get.
they needed a pass rusher. So
Absolutely.
hopefully he turns into a pass rusher for them. They drafted Evan Neal at 7.
Offensive line
Andy
help,
and I
big
didn't
deal.
meet. We didn't meet Evan Neal in the airport, but we did stand next to him.
Giant of
And
a
I was
man.
kind of shocked. Like, his bodyguard next to him was way bigger than he was. So I don't know. But hopefully
Evan
he's
Neal's
pretty good.
a big dude. What are you talking about?
I stood right next to the guy. I'm telling you. He didn't seem
Dude, he's
that
like
big.
6'5", 300.
He did not look that big. I'm
are
telling
you sure you didn't confuse him? Maybe he was the guy you thought was the bodyguard.
Yeah,
So-
right? Seriously.
No, I knew what Evan Neal looked like. I'd seen a couple of videos. He wears glasses. The same guy. His bodyguard was like twice his size. I'm
Well,
not
then he
even
just
joking.
knows how to pick them. That's all.
So when Andy and I stood next to the guy, I was like, oh, I didn't feel that. Like, there's certain guys I felt very, like I'm a very small man next to them. When I stood next to Evan Neal, I didn't have that feeling. Not that he won't be good. I'm just saying I didn't
fair.
have that feeling. And then they drafted Wandale Robinson out of Kentucky, who can definitely be like a Swiss Army knife and can do a lot of everything. Could be like their Debo, essentially, to put that, out there. So, and he's been looking good in camp. They still have Daniel Jones at quarterback, which he's turned the ball over as much as Drew Lock. So I just don't have a lot of faith in him overall.
You know the difference between Jones and Drew Lock?
Jones fumbles and Locke throws interceptions. I mean,
Jones finally got a head coach who can help him.
that's absolutely true. Again, you're right on that. And you're throwing out some good answers here tonight. Their over-under is 7. So, again, I don't think Vegas thinks they're going to be very good either. I just think they'll be better than the Commandos.
Yeah, I disagree. I'm fairly certain New York's going to be the bottom of the barrel. Now, over the next 3 years, I think that can change. I think New York can actually end up edging them out. But I think for this coming season, that's definitely going to be the case. So
I could see Washington having a better record than New York this year, but I could see everybody watching New York games going, oh yeah, there's something there. I'm bullish on Daniel Jones with the ball. I am. I am after watching what he was able to do for Allen
Yeah.
over the last 3-4 years, I am bullish on what he could possibly do. The same thing for Daniel Jones.
They have a really tough decision to make. Really tough decision.
I don't think they do. And this is why. If Daniel plays well enough for them to say, hey, we want you to stick around, he'll look around and see what happened to Mariota, Trubisky, guys like that, and go, yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that middle road. I'll take that, 25, 30 million a year. Give me a 3-4 year deal and let's see what happens. He's from Duke, dude. He's not a stupid dude. I think he's smart enough to realize I can get paid that, or I can get paid $2 million a year and be a backup somewhere.
I mean, that's exactly what's gonna happen.
Yeah. At least you won't get blamed for losing. So
I see that. Look, I've said Mariota is going to surprise some people. SP and I are on that train together.
yes.
I have said Trubisky is going to come out and surprise a bunch of people. SP and I are on that train together. I have Daniel Jones in that same category this year.
This is where we leave. I'm like, I'm taking this exit. You can keep going that way.
I know.
Have a good one.
I know, but I've seen the things I need to see from him talent-wise. I know there are some poor decisions that have been made on his part, but I also look at his background coming from a Cutcliffe system. I look at the system that was around him, the amount of injuries he's had to his top weapons. I see now with the coach that he has being able to progress in a positive direction. I'm not going to say take the next step just yet, but I see him progressing in a positive direction.
He has the best O-line that he will have had while he's been there. He does have
better
the best
than anything
coach.
Eli had.
That's true. He's got the best. Well, Eli's line when he first came out was actually
good.
I'm
talking more later.
About
Eli
his first
years.
3 years, he had a decent
Sean O'Hara and Chris Snee were pretty good on that line.
When the DB coach decided to bench him and see what they had with Geno Smith, hey, probably not the right decision there, bro. You just ruined an Ironman record, dumb.
That was horrible. But I mean, at least he's got a better O-line. He's got a better coach than he's ever had. So I think he will definitely improve. But he's in a really tough situation, because if you just improve a little bit, does that really make the coach go, I want to keep you long term? I just got done coaching Josh Allen for 4 years.
I see where you're going.
I know what greatness looks like. I
think it depends on where the improvement comes from, one, and two, it'll also depend on where their record falls at the end of the season, because that's going to decide where their draft pick lies and what quarterbacks will be available in the draft at that position as well.
I mean, in my opinion, and we all know my opinion may not always be right, Daniel Jones and Mac Jones are like the new Andy Dalton. If you have a good team around them, they can make the playoffs, but are they that guy that's really going to take you to that next level?
We're using that Andy Dalton line right now, and I don't know where I fall on that just yet. I think he's more talented than Andy Dalton.
I don't think that. I mean, Red Rifle had some good years, but he had good teams.
Think about the talent he had around him all the time that was always healthy too. I mean, you're talking Ocho Cinco and Hushman Zada every year for the first.
That's not Red Rifle.
Career?
No, you're talking AJ Green. No, you're talking AJ Green.
Oh, you're right. That would be Carson Palmer.
Yeah.
AJ Green, end of Ocho Cinco, but still, he had talent around him.
I'm probably gonna get some hate for this, but I don't even care. I think Daniel Jones and Mac Jones, both on the current Giants or the past Giants, whatever, last couple of seasons, I think Daniel Jones performs better than Mac Jones.
Absolutely, I agree with you 100%.
Okay, because I
agree with you.
Yeah, I'm to compare I think Daniel Jones on the Patriots is actually a decent quarterback. I think Mac Jones on the Giants is garbage.
I can't debate this yet because Mac Jones. Mac Jones made the playoffs as a rookie.
I can see Daniel Jones turning into the new Tony Romo.
I didn't
No
want to
way.
say that. I didn't want to say that earlier, dude, but it was literally on the tip of my tongue of mentioning it that like, oh, imagine if this guy can get around a actual decent team. And that was always my concern with Romo is there was always something that was catastrophically wrong. It was
Yep.
either the defense or offense or something that was always just going so bad.
I see that potential in Daniel Jones, that glimmer of light where he can scramble, he can run if he needs to, but he can really sling it. He just hasn't had a healthy weapon system around him ever.
And the guy's got wheels. They fall off at the 2-yard line. So
Turf Munster's eating us all. Anybody that's going to deny that is a liar. Period.
Yeah, it is brutal.
Turf Monster's a son of a bitch. We know it.
All
right.
anyways, so
next, Pinky.
I hope we're all in line on this. So
we're not gonna be.
Oh, okay.
You already know.
Second in the division will be
the Dallas Cowboys.
No, absolutely not. How dare you? That's absolutely ridiculous. I'm
say you're on this.
Cheers. Oh my God!
Look,
you guys are. This is pure spite, is what this is.
It might be
same thing I've said before.
They're
going to make the playoffs. They're just not going to win the division.
It might be close.
You guys are nuts.
And if you won the division, it wouldn't be a surprise.
Statistically, this is just so bad. Like that, those are the only games they play are division games. Like, look at their stats. Those are the only games they show up on.
I think the Eagles got better, and I don't think the Cowboys got better.
That's where I stand as well.
I still think the Cowboys have an inferior coach at this point in Mike McCarthy. So,
all right, that's Pinky and I had talked about this on Saturday, SP, and we wish you were here because what it really comes down to for me, and I've been on your Cowboy support wagon. I've been there with you. But when I look at what the Eagles did in the offseason through the draft and free agency and the lack of participation from Jerry Jones in free agency and really the draft, the Cowboys stayed the same or got slightly better. The Eagles took a huge jump forward. And to me, look, the Eagles arguably have the best offensive line in the NFL. They got better on the defensive side. They snatched a number one wide receiver to pair with last year's pick. They've got a great run game. They've got a solid tight end. There's just so many things about the Eagles. When I compare them roster to roster with the Cowboys, I have a hard time saying, yeah, the Cowboys got a lot of talent, but overall, I don't feel like they've got enough to be above the Eagles at this point.
Cowboys have better coordinators than the Eagles right now, but that's really where it ends. Okay, so Cowboys picked up James Washington, who's already hurt, and Dante Fowler in free agency, and that was like it.
I don't know. I don't think we needed to actually fix a lot with the team other than game decisions. I think that was our biggest problem is not properly preparing for teams that were outside of the division. And that mentality absolutely needs to change. And the stats prove it. I've showed you guys the numbers. The fact that they're scoring 18 more points in division games compared to non-division games shows that they just don't put the effort into trying to win those games.
Which is
period.
So crazy.
I don't disagree with you there. I still think their defense is how do I want to word this? The defense still has holes. In the sense that you've got some big names, but those big names can't make up for the other deficiencies completely.
That defense was very turnover, like reliant.
Yeah.
And if they didn't get turnovers, they didn't do well in those games.
Well, here's the biggest problem. And again, you see this on non-division games. The games in non-division games, when they were forcing turnovers, they weren't scoring points. Those turnovers should have equaled points, right? But they didn't. And that's why they ended up losing a lot of those games. And you look at the division, those turnovers equaled points. In other words, preparation on how they game plan and all that was much different. And that's been that's been the Cowboys' problem for a while now, regardless of coaches. It's just that like their heart is not in it if it's not a division game. That's why I say that they get their division. I don't think that will be an issue. I think what the biggest factor is going to be is them not winning division games. And also, if our defense could still keep up and get a little bit more coverage over the top, then he can continue to be a ball hawk, right? And then Micah Parsons will still go out there and really force some stuff and some bad games for a lot of quarterbacks out there. But, and granted, I will say the Eagles are going to take an astronomical jump compared to last year. I am in complete agreement with that. I think they're actually going to be a really good team. They're going to give us a run for our money for the next 6 years. I think they're in that position because they have so much young talent. But I don't see that kind of a jump.
I just think I do think the line between the Cowboys and Eagles are like, it's like razor thin. If I had to pick one though, I would take the Eagles over the Cowboys to win the division.
Here's what I'll say to you, SP. Here's what I'll say to you. Everything you just said, I agree with. But with that being said, how do you take advantage of what you just talked about with your Dallas defense? You run the ball and you play action. And what are the Eagles, by all accounts, going to be great at this year? Running the ball and play action, especially with A.J. Brown now being there to help take away that double coverage from a Devontae Smith, who, and by all accounts, from all experts this year, Devontae Smith as a number 2 is arguably one of the best number 2s in the NFL. There are people expecting big things from him now that he's not going to be double covered because that's going to be A.J. Brown. He was known for beating press coverage. He was known for a great route runner. He was known for his speed. He was known for his ability to turn plays after the catch. So now you're opening these things up for some of these other guys. And yes, you've got Diggs, but what do you have after Diggs? Yes, you've got Parsons and Lawrence.
Hold on.
But they're not necessarily known for stopping the rush. They're known
Diggs
for being
is
after
like
the quarterback.
Diggs is like the craziest player ever. Because he had one of the highest interceptions rates of any player, but he gave up the most yards of any corner last year.
That's what I'm talking about, though. So it's
those two things don't
when
really.
You put that all into perspective, you're absolutely right. Last year, Dallas destroyed the division.
Yeah,
they had issues outside of the division.
Murdered the division.
But
yeah, we were benching our players. Like that's how bad we were killing those teams. So,
but can we all agree that Jalen Hurts is going to take another step forward? Can we all agree that offensive
there's
line
no
is very
excuses
dangerous?
that he shouldn't, but
right.
You know what I mean? Like I just see again when I put it pen on paper, position to position, roster to roster, Dallas is crazy talented. But the thing I see with the Eagles is all of Dallas's weaknesses are what the Eagles are probably by all accounts going to have as strengths. And I think that's where I give the Eagles the edge in the division. Again,
so
I still see Dallas making the playoffs. I just don't see them winning the division this year.
So again, coming back to the Cowboys.
And I hate to mention who I like on Dallas because I'm afraid my curse is going to kick in.
Yeah, you just
and ruin all the stock I have for fantasy.
You can just keep your mouth shut and keep talking about how good those Eagles are.
Haven't said it. Keep my mouth shut.
They did draft the offensive tackle Tyler Smith, who had the most holding penalties in college last year. So that was good.
That's okay. We don't have any issues with holding calls. So yeah,
they drafted Sam Williams.
Only an issue when you throw the ball. They're going to run it more this year. It'll be fine.
We'll see.
They had Sam Williams at defensive end, Jalen Tolbert at wide receiver.
That's a big
sneaky
pick, by
good
the way.
pick that I like. They did get Jake Ferguson at tight end, who is a Dalton Schultz clone. Like their
the
games
bigger
are very
pick is
similar.
Jalen Tolbert, and I've been saying that before the draft. You guys heard me say that before the draft. That dude's going to be, especially with James Washington going down, that's going to be a big pick now.
I still think it was a mistake to let Cooper and Cedric Wilson walk.
Nope, it won't be.
I disagree
with all the talking heads. I disagree that that's not going to be an issue.
No, we had a lot of talent on our wide receiver core. If there's one thing that I will say that the Cowboys, in my opinion, are phenomenal at drafting, and that's wide receivers and tight ends. They just had to work with the proper things. Like we had Blake Jarwin and Dalton Schultz, and both of them could have been starters on any team. And if it wasn't for injuries, there would have been some obviously some better prospects, things like that. But
Hey,
like,
they
that's,
took a 6'4" 40 guy and turned him into a Hall of Famer in Witten. So
Yeah.
by all means.
absolutely. And honestly, I felt the same way with Njoku. Like, I still think Njoku is going to have a really good year.
We'll get there. We'll get there. We're
okay.
not in that division yet. Easy,
Yeah.
buddy. You
Just
and
saying.
me,
I'm just
we're
saying.
there. We're
All
there.
right.
He
We're there.
got super excited about that.
Yeah.
So Vegas has Dallas the over under 10 games, which is so like right there because I could see them winning 11. I could see them winning 9. It's right there.
What did Philly do? Let's end it on Philly's draft, free agency, because we just talked about both of them together. So just run through it real quick.
I mean, you already mentioned they traded for A.J. Brown. They gave up a first-round pick for A.J. Brown. They paid him good money right out of the bat.
They got a steal
So
from Tennessee for A.J.
That
Brown.
worked out great. They got one of the guys I really liked, and I think he's proven that he can do it because he's done it back-to-back seasons. They got Hassan Reddick from the Panthers. He was a free agent. He was only on a 1-year deal, signed with Philly. He got 12 sacks in Arizona and 12 sacks in Carolina. So he proved it back-to-back years he can do it. So I really, really like that pick. They drafted Jordan Davis from Georgia, who is just a mountain of a man. He is gigantic.
Beast on that
and
line.
Can move.
Beast on that line.
Then they drafted Cameron Jurgens, who's a center from Nebraska. And that's what you need. You need a guy in the middle who can really play center, can play guard, and help
look,
out.
Being a homer, we all know how I feel about Nebraska, blah, blah, blah. But there were people who had him rated as the number 1 center in the draft.
That is true. That is absolutely true. So, and then they drafted in the 3rd round, and I still hate it, they drafted Nakobe Dean, and linebacker from Georgia. I just don't know why anybody wouldn't take a risk on this guy. Like,
how he fell that far is beyond. Again, square peg, round hole NFL. You don't fit our measurements, you're not going to be able to play at the next level. It's stupid.
I mean, it had more to do with his health issues than the measurements, but take a risk. Like, it's okay. And they still have an extra first round for next season from
Thanks
trading
to the dumbass Saints.
Saints are ridiculous. Now their over under is 9.5. So again, Vegas really hedging there. We think they might be really good, but maybe they won't. Right. So I have Philly winning the division.
SP. More I look at it on paper, the more I go, whose strengths, whose weaknesses, this and that and the other. I do think Philly takes a step slightly over Dallas this year.
And Philly was a playoff team last year too.
They were.
So
I understand.
But it's razor thin.
But I'm a stats guy, and I know how Dallas plays in the division. That's it. That's what I'm looking at. That is my main category. Like, listen, it's a coin flip outside the division. Any team, anytime, it doesn't matter. I don't care who it is, right? But in division, my money's always going on the Cowboys, and I'm going by like +10. Like that's how they are. That's how they've always been. That's the reason why they always sneak into the playoffs, even though they have garbage records, because they only win division games, and that's how they play it. They sit there and they've all. I think Jerry Jones. It has to have something to do with Jones, because this has been their mentality: is that, hey, just give us the chance to win the Super Bowl, and maybe we can get there. And in hindsight, you should say, no, it doesn't work that way at all, because you guys always get into the playoffs and then go straight out first game. So it's like, obviously, it's not a winning mentality.
I would say at least over the last 5 years, I just feel like Jones has been doing quite a bit to try to get to the Super Bowl, but it's either they draft really well, but they overpay their own guys, and then they don't bring in any free agents to help. Like, they haven't mastered that calculation of draft, free agency, and keeping our own guys. Like,
well, we drafted
they overpay some of their own guys.
We drafted a lot of really good young talent in defense last year. And I think you're going to see a lot of that step up. And I think that's the part that's actually getting slightly negated. You're talking about how we didn't acquire people for free agency, but we have a lot of talent that we drafted last year from the defense that can step
Which
up.
is
So
absolutely true. And most of that defense that you drafted last year played pretty well as rookies. The biggest issue, though, is you still don't have anybody on that defense to help stop the run. Which, again, may not equate to games, but if I can keep your offense off the field, which is a top-scoring offense, I can win football games.
Yeah, and here's the thing, though. Nobody in our division is a run-heavy team. So it's like, who cares then? Like
Philly is. I would disagree with you.
Philly is. Yeah, I would agree with Philly.
I think
the Giants have been shitty at O-line, so they haven't been able to run.
Right,
but
yeah.
Philly is a run.
Saquon's just going to get hurt. Like Daniel Jones is going to have more rushing yards than Saquon probably.
Let's hope that's not true, but okay.
Yeah. So, anyways, those are the reasons. Listen, trust me, I don't have the wrong vision when it comes to the Cowboys. I know what their faults are, but I also I know what they excel at. And statistically, I'm like, I don't understand how you not put them on having the best record in that division, because that's all they play for. That is all they've done for the last 4 to 5 years. So,
final thoughts, SP.
I can't wait for football. I'm excited. There's going to be so many good things coming from it, and just hurry up and get me there. That's how I feel about this.
Love it.
A lot of good stuff.
Oh man, I'm the same way. We're close. Still got a couple weeks till some more fantasy drafts kick off.
Yep.
We've got some exciting stuff that we'll be able to hand out to some of our listeners here in the next week or two. Really, really cool stuff fantasy wise. So,
we've got some exciting news coming that we're going to be a part of, and we're excited to share it. But there's still some things in the works that we got to shore up on the back end first. But listen to my man Pinky; he's telling you the truth.
Really cool fantasy stuff.
On that note, cheers to my fellas. Go spend that time with your loved ones, family, friends, this, that, and the other. Cherish it. We're out.
Later.